Hello and welcome to the Mastermind, Body, and Spirit Show. I'm your host, Matt Belair. Today's guest is a leading expert in EFT tapping and the co-founder of the Tapping Solution, a company on a mission to spread the word on the power of EFT tapping. Her yearly online event, the Tapping World Summit, has attracted an audience of over 1 million people from all over the world. She is the author of 2 books, including her New York Times Bestseller, The Tapping Solution for Weight Loss and Body Confidence. She is also the co-creator of the Tapping Solution app, a powerful mobile app with over 1.2 million tapping meditations played to date. Welcome to the show, Jessica Ortner.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your patience very much. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but I'm so happy to dive into this because I looked at your work and I said before we recorded that I think that what you're doing with EFT is so important because I study a lot of personal development techniques. I have amazing guests on the show, but EFT is one of those techniques that works incredibly well. It is super easy to understand. You have it forever, and the results are very effective. So that's what I'll say about it to, before we let you dive in and just share a little bit about your story. Like, how did you get into this? And then how did you become inspired to be like, you know what, I'm going to make sure everybody in the world knows about EFT and has that tool for their own personal growth?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, once again, thank you for having me. And this is a topic I love now, but true, like confession, when I first learned about EFT tapping, I was incredibly skeptical. I didn't quite get it. And it wasn't until I was sick with a cold that my brother came to me and said, all right, let's just finally try this tapping thing. And we started tapping on how I felt. So what you do with tapping is you actually give a voice to what's bothering you as you stimulate these acupressure points. So here I was tapping on this cold, tapping on the feelings, being congested, being tired, being frustrated that I had the cold. And then all of a sudden, as I was tapping, what you're doing as you stimulate these acupressure points is you're sending a calming signal to your brain, letting the amygdala in your brain, that fight or flight response, that spot which really creates anxiety in our body, it allows our brain to calm down, to know that we are safe, it's safe to relax. And as I'm tapping, I get to the point where I look up and I go, I don't want to get better. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, honestly, I need a break. I'm exhausted. I'm run down. I'm frustrated with where I am in my life. I feel like I'm trying everything and nothing is working for me. So we shift the tapping to focus on those feelings, what I was feeling. And after a few rounds of tapping, where I was being honest with myself, I'm stimulating these points, I'm calming my nervous system, I'm sending a calming signal to my brain. All of a sudden, I took a big, deep breath in and I realized that my sinuses had cleared. And more than that, I just felt this weight off of my chest. It's a weight that I was carrying for so long that I didn't even know I had it until it was gone. It's kind of like when you're so used to stress or when you're so used to some kind of pain or discomfort, sometimes once it's gone, you realize how much it was really impacting your day-to-day life. And slowly, I had a great experience, and like everything, I forgot. So often we have this amazing experience, we do something that helps, and then we get busy and life gets busy. We just kind of go to the next thing. And it wasn't until, again, I was going through a breakup and I was having a horrible time and I couldn't think my way out of my anxiety. I couldn't think my way out of my heartbreak. It was a very physical feeling. When we are feeling stressed and overwhelmed, it is not something that simply lives in our mind. We feel it with our whole body, which is why we say they broke my heart. They stabbed me in the back. They're pain in my you-know-what. Like, we know that emotions are felt with the entire body. And so here we have this brilliant technique that combines ancient Chinese acupressure points and modern psychology and really connects the mind and body so we can physically release this anxiety that's holding us back.
That's an amazing intro. And what you shared there were so many very important points. The first one that's super basic with making a change is just making a pause, right? Is like most people kind of run that train, right? That, like when you talked about the weight, we might feel depressed all the time or anxious all the time. And Dr. Joe Dispenza likes to say, because our body is chemical, we get addicted to these emotions. It might be like the sickness, like I need this break because it's better than this other thing. And we're not bringing to the surface what the real problem is so we can understand that. And you're totally right that the body holds emotions. It stores energy. Like if you watch a really scary movie, your body reacts. If you're afraid of the water and you're out in the deep ocean, your body is going to tell you like, this is super scary. But if you can swim and you have safety nearby, you don't really need to logically be afraid. And so emotionally, to be able to have a tool that will uncover that quickly and easily, and be able to transform the emotion to what you prefer. And that, again, is such a basic technique and a basic understanding, but you need to have the awareness of understanding when you're feeling negative, and then a tool to help you transform that feeling. And it can be applied to absolutely anything. So I know that you wrote a book and it was a New York Times bestseller, which is amazing. And I'm happy for that, because I think so many women have such an issue with body confidence, with self-love, and men too. We really have, I think people in general, just self-love and self-worth, but what society portrays as far as women is even harder. So can you talk a little bit about how someone might use that process? And maybe you're speaking about some of the data and science that you have from the app, because that's one of the amazing things of having an app of that magnitude is you can do a lot of research, you can make it better, you can get feedback from the community and really figure out what's working.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a topic that's close to my heart because I started dieting when I was around 14, 15 years old. I was constantly fluctuating. And even when I was thin, it wasn't thin enough. And then when I gained weight, I also felt horrible. And I just never felt good in my body. And I was at this point, I was tapping for a while, but I wasn't tapping on the emotions I had around my weight and around my body confidence, because I was so trained to believe that if I just had enough willpower and if I just had enough motivation and if I just had that perfect diet plan, then I would be able to get there. And then once I get there and I lose the weight, my life could begin. Then I could be happy. And then I could feel like I had something valuable to say. And then I could, speak up for myself or whatever it is. I created a lot of stories around how it needed to happen. And I was insane in the sense that Einstein says insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I was doing the same diet over again. I was trying different diets, but it was really the same strategy. And, the pattern I would run is I would gain weight. I would get really, really hard on myself. I would be very self-critical. I'd jump into a diet and then, yeah, I'd lose a few pounds. Any diet, you can lose a few pounds for a week. But it was so hard for me to stick to. I felt so much pressure around weight loss. I felt like my body also was constantly betraying me at any moment it could. And so I could only stick to that plan for so long because sticking to it was just uncomfortable and painful and effort. And then I would sabotage it because I'd be like, you know what? I don't care anymore. I'm exhausted. I'm tired of dieting. And then I would binge. And it was this vicious cycle. And I saw this so much with people around me. And the difficult thing about this cycle is that all these diets work for a short period of time, but none of this is sustainable. I had to take a step back after a lot of resistance and a lot of pain and really think to myself, what is going on here? What is my relationship with food? What's my relationship with myself? What's my relationship around my body? When I'm binging, what am I feeling? Because the truth was that all of these negative behaviors were fueled by an emotion, a feeling of not being good enough, or when you're constantly giving to others and you're really busy, sometimes the only moment you have to relax and to take care of yourself is through food. And so if you're depriving yourself of any moment to feel good, of course you're going to be addicted to that sugar, because that's the moment that you can take a break. And it feels, Brad Yates said something to me and it really stayed with me. He said, self-sabotage is simply misguided self-love. Self-sabotage is simply misguided self-love. At some point, the things that we're doing that are bad for us, in some way, it's to take care of ourselves because we don't feel safe to do things differently. And we feel like we need that negative pattern in some sense. So I really had to go on a personal journey and begin to make some changes and really use tapping. Because as much as I can logically know that I should feel good about my body, and someone can tell me about how emotions impact us, it's very difficult when you feel something so strongly and it's a pattern you've had since you were 14. So I began to use tapping to really address those emotions that came up, and it took a deep dive into all these different aspects that impact the way that I look at myself, and also the behaviors I have around food and around exercise and around different ways to take care of myself. It was a long journey for me. And so when I really got to the other end and I felt such a huge shift, I mean, not only did I lose 30 pounds, which I didn't even care about at that point, because I started to feel good even before the weight came off. I started to feel empowered even before I got the results. And when you feel empowered and when things become easier and feel more pleasurable, it's sustainable. If it's pleasurable, it's sustainable. Those diets, not pleasurable, not sustainable. And so I found my way there through tapping. And then I did not want to be an expert in body confidence and weight loss, because it was my biggest insecurity my entire life. Like, it's like the last thing you want to focus on when it's been one of your biggest struggles. But I felt like there was a voice missing in the conversation. I saw the results I had, and I knew that if I really dissected everything that I did, if I made it into a plan and in a book, it would be a journey of self-discovery where people would feel like their hand is being held and they're guided through this. And so that's how the book came out. And then, you mentioned the data. The thing that's most exciting to me is this new app that we have, the Tapping Solution app. Because books are amazing. You can read the script and you can tap along, but we are holding this thing everywhere we go. And sometimes you're out and you have a craving, or you're going into that negative self-talk. You're going into that destructive pattern that you've done so many times. It's very helpful to be able to grab your phone, open up a tapping meditation, and in 10 minutes, release the anxiety, and so that your craving disappears or that self-talk disappears. And so then you can feel empowered in your life. You can share that big idea in a meeting. There's so much more we can do when we're empowered, and all it does is take 10 minutes. And that's why we created the app, to do these quick tapping meditations. We have a whole section on weight loss and body confidence, as well as a section around emotional health and stress relief and sleeping. You said before, tapping works on so many things, and some people get confused as to how a technique can work on so many things. The reason is because tapping helps with stress. When you tap on these acupressure points, you are releasing stress, because when you're feeling stressed, you have an overproduction of a hormone called cortisol. And that hormone is directly related to abdominal fat. And so you can be actually doing everything right, and if you have a huge amount of stress, your body does not feel that it's safe for you to release the weight. And so as we're tapping, it has been clinically shown that tapping reduces cortisol, that stress hormone. So you're releasing that stress. When we release stress, our metabolism works better, our brain is back online, we can think clearly, we can make better decisions. And so with the Tapping Solution app, we have over 150 tapping meditations, because what part of our life does stress impact? Every part of our life. It impacts our financial decisions, our relationship decisions, the decisions around food and exercise. And so we really created this app, this place that people could go to get the exact tapping meditation that they need. So
That's
I can
amazing.
go into some of the data. You asked me about the data and I went on a tangent. I didn't address the
I
data.
love all that. I would love you to. I'm just going to kind of like share some feedback from why I understand how effective this is. When I went to China, I trained with 34th generation Shaolin monks, and one of the optional classes you could do acupuncture. And I looked at the points, and I only was there for a month, and the way that they had the energetic body mapped, and this is ancient, this is thousands of years old, they've been using this stuff. And one of the masters there could literally break stone with 2 freaking fingers and stone over his head. So obviously they could do something. Obviously there was something to this. They weren't like making it up and not understanding it. And so I began asking questions like, well, what if you have a cold? They're like, oh, here, and you basically tap there. You're just doing it without a needle. You're doing it with your own body, because they had the whole energy system mapped, and it was extraordinary to see what they had there. And what you're talking about is such a fundamental thing. It's so simple, people might miss it, but it's just understanding that we can and do change our emotions, and we can do this consciously. And so we're running these patterns of stress, anxiety, poor internal dialogue, all of these different things, thinking that this is unconscious, that I can't change it, and that it's automatic. And when you struggle with body image, anxiety, depression, lack of self-worth, you just have your mind being I call your mind as being a total a-hole to you,
Yeah.
and from experiences or whatever the reason is, and you have this big neural map in your mind. And in order to change that, there's something wonderful called neural pruning or synaptic pruning. And so when this emotion and this brain wiring is saying, I'm not good enough, I'm too fat, you stop, you take some breaths, you analyze what's happening, and then you shift to what you prefer. You do that time and time again, because the thing is, at first, the map, you've never looked at it, and it's just this unconscious system, and it's very rooted. So it's integrated into who you are. So it's going to take some time. But the second you stop, you address it, you change it to what you want, and you start to intentionally tell yourself how you want to feel and what is true. Because what is true is you are enough. What is true is that you are whole. What is true is that you are perfect, regardless of what you look like, regardless of how much you weigh, regardless of how much you make. That's the truth. Like I have a daughter, you look at somebody who's 6 years old or 10 years old, they're enough. Your kids are enough in high school. Your kids are enough in college. People are enough as they are, but we get older and we judge and we do all this craziness. So
Yeah. Yeah.
when you begin switching it, the neural pruning happens, and then you build a new way of being, and you have a new identity. And now for you, that's kind of your story of transformation. You identified of this way, you had the emotional identity too. So you had those experiences, and through time and effort, you changed that through your own conscious programming and one simple technique. And it's wonderful, because then that new way of being, that new internal map, stays there, and that's just the program that runs, and you've decided to create that. So I just wanted to share all
That's
that, because I think it's super
yeah.
important.
That's what's exciting, is that it stays there. There's been
Mhm.
a great research study. There's a woman, Dr. Peta Stapleton, down in Bond University in Australia, and she's been doing a lot of research studies around tapping for weight loss. And one of the studies is the person, if you do an MRI and you can see what part of the brain lights up, when you see a cupcake or some sugar, you have a part of your brain light up. Like it's that, like, ooh, this is exciting. Just the photo of something sweet. And she showed people before and after tapping, and after tapping, while looking at that photo, your brain, that part of the brain wasn't lighting up anymore. And so she could document that people were having a different reaction to that photo, to that idea of that sugar. And the studies she's doing is amazing, because she follows up with people months later and sees that it sticks. What was interesting for me personally is I had a baby a year ago. And so obviously a part of being pregnant is you gain weight. You're supposed to gain weight. And I was really like interested to see what I would react. Because to be honest, you don't know how you're going to be until you're in the situation. And so much of my life, if I gained weight or, I was always just criticizing myself. And I was wondering, like, how am I going to be when I finish having the baby and I'm, postpartum, and like nobody just bounces back. You have, it can take a long time. And sometimes your body just has a new set point. And it was incredible for me to have this baby and to realize, like, all of that stress, like that panic that I had before, doesn't exist. And it was I have a beautiful relationship with my body now, that if for some reason I gain weight, it doesn't matter. Like, there's not emotions around it. It's just some information. And maybe it means I need to make a shift in my lifestyle. Maybe it doesn't, but it's the emotion and the anxiety and the stress is gone. There's a positive relationship, and you can navigate your body, which, by the way, isn't supposed to stay the same the rest of your life. Like, my body is not the same as high school. We're changing. The women go through menopause, and our body's evolving as we age, and we have to have an empowering relationship with our body and know that it's not static. And it's been really interesting for me to see that the work that I did so long ago still works. Because honestly, I'm surprised. I was wondering, are those connections going to go back, and am I going to freak out again? And it was amazing to see that, like, wow, I don't. There's an ease, and this is the feeling that I've always wanted. And it really came from just really committing to do that work and spending a few months really committing to look at some of the hard things, that pain around my body, and do tapping around it.
That's amazing. That's a really great story. It's first of all, congratulations. Is it your first baby?
It's my first baby, yes.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm 6 months into being a dad, and it's lots of
Oh,
fun.
congratulations to
Yeah,
you.
she's super cute and a pain in the bum. But
It gets easier and better every month. It
yeah,
really does.
yeah, it's amazing how fast they grow. And one of the things I've thought about as being a new father is that what I understand is they're not going to listen to you. Like, they'll listen to you a bit, but they're going to mostly be who you are. So if you're stressed, if you're anxious, if you overeat, if you are critical of yourself, they're going to pick that up. And so I'm really taking a look at the parts of me that I want to share with her, you know what I mean? And who I want to be. And I think that being very conscious of that, being very conscious of who you are, who you want to be, you're going to pass that on. And it's better for you and your own experience in your life to be that anyway, because like you shared, it's the emotion around it, because you're overweight does not mean that you are a worthless loser.
No.
Because you make a certain amount of money does not mean that you are not worthy of love and you suck. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. And we add this emotion around it. And that emotion leads into that self-judgment. It leads into that inner critic just going off. And 90%, I'd probably say 90, 95% of the planet has just an awful self-critic. And if we could empower the world, and it's kind of what you're trying to do here in a way to say, hey, if we can have an inspiring inner dialogue. And I like to offer the example of, what if your internal dialogue was like your biggest cheerleader, or like your mother or father, or the most supportive person in your life. So every time you went in, this inner dialogue was just cheering you on and telling you everything's okay and that you're enough. Like, that would be beautiful. And that would make sense. That's what
Yeah.
our inner dialogue
But you know
should
what,
be.
Matt? Like, the reality too is a lot of what you said, parents that like excite, a lot of people had parents that weren't supportive, that didn't have that great inner dialogue. I love that you said, like, you have to look at it generationally and like what you're passing on to your children. Oftentimes our inner dialogue is the same that our mothers had, our grandmothers had. That was a huge motivation for me because I saw this pattern of shrinking and playing small and obsessing about how I looked. I saw it in my mother, I saw it in my grandmother, and I thought, man, if I change this, I'm not doing this just for me. I'm doing this for future generations, because for generations, women have played small, they've shrunk, they felt like they needed to be tiny to be worthy, and they needed to not speak up. And so for me, that was a big why and a motivation to commit to the tapping, was saying, I am breaking a generational pattern. I am doing something so that when I have a daughter, and even for my son, they're not running the same pattern. Because as you said, I can tell them not to do it. Like, my mother always told me she was beautiful, but it doesn't matter what you say. It matters what they witness. And I witnessed women in my family really being hard on themselves.
Yeah, that's a really, really great addition. And I think it's so important. And it's a really big thing because I think there's a quote by Aristotle or something. He's like, give me Socrates, like, give me the boy until he's 5 and I'll show you the man. And it's just how we learn and have those, how we receive information. So that is super important. And thank you for doing that work and sharing what you're doing. I wanted to ask, I know we're a little bit close on time, like 20 minutes, because you got a hard stop. Is there anything that you want to cover? Do you want to run through like how a tapping would work? Because the nice thing
Yeah.
about it is you can learn it pretty quickly and pretty easily, and then you just begin experimenting going around it. So do you think like that would be the most ideal use of the time?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to do that. And you're right. And this is what I love about it, is if someone is watching this and then they never hear from me again, doesn't even matter, because right now you're going to learn the tapping. And once you know how to do it, you could do it at any time. And also with the tapping app, we have a lot of free things. It's a subscription, so you can upgrade and unlock 150, but there's 10 that are free that you can use every single day. Like, you asked me before about the data, and I didn't get to it, but for example, we have a tapping meditation called Releasing Anxiety. We've had over 200,000 people use it. It's 9 minutes long and 41% decrease in anxiety in 9 minutes. So you're almost cutting your anxiety in half in 9 minutes. You're speaking differently, you're acting differently when you do something like that. We have another one called Quieting My Racing Mind. 96,000 people have done it, and it's the average decrease is 50%. instant boost of happiness, it's 53%. Like these are 10 minutes and we're cutting anxiety by half. People are sleeping better, they're feeling better, and they have that better inner voice that you're mentioning. So with that, let me teach tapping. So when it comes to tapping, there are 9 points, and I'll go through the points quickly and then kind of talk through how you do it. So the very first point is the karate chop point, and it's the side of the hand, and it doesn't matter what side of the body you tap on. The next point is the eyebrow point, and it's right where the hair of your eyebrow begins. So again, some people do both, some people do one, doesn't matter. Then follow your eyebrow until you're on the side of the eye. So you're not back on the temple, you're right on the bone. Then we have underneath the eye on the bone. And if you're watching this and you're watching the video, tap along with me. Then we have underneath the nose between the upper lip and the nose. Then we have underneath the mouth, so it's the crease between the lip and the chin. Then we have the collarbone point. If you feel the U-shaped bone and you go down an inch and over an inch on either side, you're gonna hit it. You can also take your whole hand and tap on your chest and you're gonna stimulate that point. And then we have underneath the arm, it's a hand width from your armpit. And then we have on top of the head. So those are the 9 points. And what we do with tapping is you first start by saying the setup statement. And the setup statement really gets you ready. It sets you up for the process. The setup statement is all about really getting clear on what you're feeling and giving some kind of affirmation of acceptance, of just saying, even though I have this feeling, I accept how I feel. Some people like to say, I love and accept myself. For others, that's a little too much to start. So you simply tap on the side and say, even though I'm stressed, I accept how I feel. Even though I'm incredibly nervous, I accept how I feel. When it comes to our emotions, it's often the fight against our emotions that keep them stuck. The moment you can just say, or even open up to the idea that you accept how you feel, you can have a more honest conversation, and it really helps your body relax. You do that 3 times, and then you tap on the rest of the points while you give a voice to how you feel. So it's the opposite of positive thinking in the sense that we're already running these patterns. We already have this negative self-talk. It's not that we're attracting it in, it's already there. What we're doing is really allowing ourselves to be truthful with how we feel. Like I shared in the beginning, when I felt stuck in my life, there was something liberating to say, I feel so stuck. It feels unfair. And I said, I'm mad at the universe because I feel like I'm doing everything right and things aren't going my way. I just allowed myself to have that honest conversation as I tapped on these acupressure points. So what happens as you're tapping on these acupressure points, it's sending a signal calming to your brain, because when you are having that stressful thought, there is a part of your brain that thinks you're in danger. It's the fight or flight response. You have a thought and all of a sudden you have that overproduction of cortisol, you have adrenaline, your heart starts racing, you feel anxiety in your body. What you're doing here is getting very clear on that thought that's creating that physical response. While we're focusing on that thought, we're tapping on these acupressure points. That's sending that calming signal to the brain, letting your brain know, even though I have this thought, I'm safe. Even though I have this thought that I'm not good enough, I'm safe. And the moment we feel safe and relaxed in our body, our thoughts can't hijack us, because it's the emotion, it's the physical feeling of anxiety that often keeps us stuck in place. When we're feeling calm, we can take a step back and think, is that what I really think? And oftentimes from that calm place, it's when we can think clearly, we can be more logical, we can be more resourceful, more creative, and we can begin to see the patterns we were running and have a lot more self-compassion as we decide to choose something different because those emotions haven't hijacked us. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, I'm with you. Makes perfect sense.
Perfect. So let's actually have an experience. We'll just do a few rounds of tapping so people can get an idea of what it looks like. And then again, if you go on your phone, if you go in Google Play or the App Store, you can download the app and you can follow along. It has an avatar with the points that you're supposed to tap on lighting up. It's very easy to follow, but this is a great introduction.
I wanted to ask a
Yeah,
quick question. You know
sure.
the tapping points? I remember when I was in China, they had them all listed out with incredible detail. Did
Yeah.
you ever find information about what each point was linked to and how that was kind of working, or more detail
No,
on that?
so the information is out there and I've read the information, but it hasn't been something that I've studied and memorized. It's kind of one of those things that I'm curious about and it seems interesting. But what's great about these 9 points, because the truth is we have points, as you know, all over our body. These aren't the only nine endpoints that we have. But what we found is by using these nine, people are getting the best results. And it's more user friendly just to know the nine. So to answer your question, no, I don't have it memorized which each one is, but I do find it interesting to look it up.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Yeah, I was just curious. And I think if people are curious about it, like look a little bit into acupuncture, because I've seen acupuncture. I had a former girlfriend that twisted her hip and nothing worked. And she had the means to get all the best therapy, all this stuff. And it turned out to be acupuncture that fixed her hip and that caused her trouble for like 8 years. It was twisted in a ski accident. So it's pretty phenomenal stuff.
It is. It is. It's great. So let's have an experience so people can see that it's phenomenal stuff. So let's just check into any tension that we have in our body. Notice if maybe you feel some tension in your chest or your stomach. I tend to hold tension in my jaw. Notice where you're holding some tension, where you're holding the stress. And we're going to do some basic tapping on that stress. It's going to be very general here, but it's to give you an idea. And I have a feeling that you guys will be able to release some of that tension. So, on a scale of 0 to 10, measure how strong it is. And then let's just all take a nice deep breath in together, getting ready to tap. So, tapping on the side of the hand, repeat after me. And you can repeat after me in out loud or in your mind. I do find that saying it out loud is helpful to stay on track. So Matt, if you would repeat after me, that would be great.
Sure.
Even though I'm holding this anxiety in my body,
Even though I am holding this anxiety in my body,
I accept myself and how I feel.
I accept myself and how I feel.
Even though I have all this tension in my body,
Even though I have all this tension in my body,
I accept how I feel
I accept how I feel.
and I give my body permission to relax.
And I give my body permission to relax.
Even though I'm feeling the stress in my body,
Even though I am feeling the stress in my body,
I accept how I feel
I accept how I feel.
and I give myself permission to relax now.
And I give myself permission to relax now.
Now we're going to give a voice to that anxiety, to the tension. So tapping on the eyebrow point, all of this tension,
All of this tension,
side of the eye, all of this stress,
all of this stress
under the eye that I feel in my body,
that I feel in my body.
under the nose. There's a lot going on in my life.
There's a lot going on in my life.
Under the mouth, there's a lot that I have to think about.
There's a lot that I have to think about.
Collarbone, there's a lot of uncertainty.
There's a lot of uncertainty.
And I hold this tension in my body.
And I hold this tension in my body.
All of this anxiety.
All of this anxiety.
Part of me believes,
Part of me believes
side of the eye, that it's not safe to relax.
that it's not safe to relax.
Under the eye, but I am safe.
But I am safe.
Even before I have the answers I need.
Even before I have the answers I need,
Under the mouth, it's safe for my body to relax.
it's safe for my body to relax.
Collarbone, even within this uncertainty.
Even within this uncertainty,
Under the arm, I am safe.
I am safe.
Releasing this tension in my body.
Releasing this tension in my body.
Eyebrow, it's safe to relax.
It's safe to relax.
Side of the eye, I am safe.
I am safe.
Under the eye, right now and right here.
Right now and right here,
Under the nose, I am okay.
I am okay.
Under the mouth, releasing this tension in my body.
Releasing this tension in my body.
Collarbone, honoring all these emotions.
Honoring all of these emotions.
Under the arm, and releasing this tension in my body.
And releasing this tension in my body.
Top of the head, it is safe to relax now.
It is safe to relax now.
Okay, take a nice deep breath in. And exhale. I like to move my shoulders around and just kind of tune back into your body. Where were you feeling the tension before? And what's the number now? On 0 to 10, has it gone down by half? Has it gone down 1 point, 2 points? Notice how you feel. And it's normal to be tapping and all of a sudden you hear something and you feel a surge of emotion because we finally pinpointed what's really bothering us. And that's an invitation to keep doing the tapping, that you're really getting clear on where that anxiety is coming from. So Matt, very quick experience, but how was that for you? What are your thoughts?
It's always so good. I love doing it. And it's one of those things that sometimes you know it and you just don't do it.
Yeah.
But every time I do it, I always feel better. It's very centering. And so, especially if you're using the language around what's specifically going on. And so for me, one of the struggles I've had recently was overwhelm. And
Mm.
so seeing so many projects, so many things to do. And so just a reminder to go into this. And so I want to ask, for when you do it, you just stick to the emotion. Do you then go into like what you prefer to happen, or do you just stay with giving a voice to it?
Yeah. So you want to always start with how you're feeling. And if you find yourself below a 5 in the intensity, you're tapping, you're starting to feel a little bit better, your shoulders are relaxing, you can then say something positive and notice how you feel. Because this is the thing, if you are a 10 in anxiety and someone says to you, or you tell yourself, all is well, and you keep saying, all is well, all is well. When you're at a 10 of anxiety, there's a part of your brain that's like, no, it's not.
Yep.
No, it's not. And you can list all the reasons why things are not well. But if your anxiety has gone down because you've honored where you feel, where you are, and your body's beginning to relax, and you're below a 5, and now you say, all is well, there's a part of you that can go, yeah, all is well. Things are okay. So it's all about where things land. Within the tapping meditations in the app, we tend to do, 2 rounds of honoring how you feel. We find that helps you just lower the intensity enough that you can then begin to feel more empowered. And we can start saying some more empowering things and they land.
That's a really great distinction. I'm glad you shared that. I'm going to be really quick because I know we're pressed on time, but I have a friend, Michael Lozier, wrote the book, The Law of Attraction, one of them, and it's really good because it's based on NLP. And one of the things he shares about affirmations not working is we say, like, I have a happy, healthy body, but you know you're lying. So you generate a negative emotion. And since we're vibrational beings, what you're speaking about here is shifting the vibration. You can't be super raging mad and very happy at the same
Yeah.
time. You can't be incredibly depressed and carefree at the exact same time. So it's that pendulum. And what you're talking about is bringing them up energetically. And if you ever watch Tony Robbins speak, that's all he's doing. He's like, get up, change your state. And if you're tired, I've been to one of the I didn't want to get up most of the time. I was like, shut up, Tony. But then I'm up and then I do the thing. And then because I'm moving my body and I'm aware of how that works, I feel better.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of nuances about why this works. And I think it's incredibly powerful. I'm grateful that you are doing what you're doing to keep bringing this awareness to the people, giving them this empowering tool. And so where can people find more about you? And is there anything you'd like to share before we close it out?
Yeah, well, I'd love to connect. If you're watching this, reach out to me. Let me know what you thought. You can find me on Instagram under at Jessica Ortner, same as Facebook. Just my name, Jessica Ortner. Great way to get in touch with me. And yeah, download the app. I know I'm mentioning it a lot, but I'm so passionate. 1.4 million tapping meditations played, and it's completely free. We have a whole section for veterans and for teachers, which is unlocked all the time for everybody. And so just explore it and give yourself an experience. You have nothing to lose. The same way that we have to eat well and we have to exercise, we have to have things in place that help our emotional health. We live in a very stressful world. I have to tap because I'm an overthinker with a lot going on, which is why I love this technique. So just encourage everyone to just have another experience with it.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, sharing what you did. You're able to share it in a very succinct and meaningful way. I definitely invite the listeners to go check it out. If you haven't tried it, definitely try it and think about one of the things you're struggling with and just give it a shot, because you'll probably be surprised with how your body feels. And when you come into a state of empowerment, then you can be a creator. If you're in a negative emotional state like fear, stress, anxiety, you're not a creator. The world's coming at you and you're like, holy crap. So it empowers you to switch your just energetic frequency and create what you want. So check it out. Give it a try.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Good luck with the event.
Thank you.
Okay, see you guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.